Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Olivia and I am Shona, and I've got a 6-month-old daughter called Olivia, and we live up in the northeast of Scotland. Today I'm going to be talking a bit about my labour and birth story. I thought I'd talk to you a bit about that, how it went. I don't think nothing can prepare you for it. I remember being quite calm and thinking, oh, I'm not scared about labour. You know, that's not bothering me at all. It's coming home, it's dealing with a little human being. But really nothing can probably be further from the truth. It's just, what an experience. I'll go on a bit about it. I'm going to do a video on my sort of pregnancy and trying to conceive and that, but I'll just go into briefly about what happened at the end. Is that I had high blood pressure, so I was put onto tablets, and I was due to go back to see the consultant just for a sort of check-up. Everything was fine, my blood pressure was at, I had tablets and that, and they seemed to do their stuff. Just a few days before I was due to go back to see the consultant, I started having contractions. And I was a bit concerned about getting into the hospital because I was diagnosed with strep B, so I had to get the antibiotics before I gave birth. So I think that was always like playing on my mind, thinking if I go into labour I need to get to the hospital, I can't wait about. Otherwise I would rather have stayed in, you know, my house for as long as possible. As I say, I started having contractions and I started timing them and I was like, oh, this is a bit regular. So I phoned up and obviously explained that I needed to get the antibiotics if necessary. So I went into Elgin, take everything with us. It was about 38 weeks, and so I was like, okay. And then they checked me and she says, yeah, you are contracting, you're 1 centimetre dilated, we'll just sort of leave you and see how it goes. And within a couple of hours everything died. There was nothing. So, I mean, we're literally decided to go. This was like 10 o'clock at night. Within a couple of hours everything had gone, and we were just like, let's go home. So I think we went home about 2 in the morning. But she'd given me a sweep, and that had kind of like, not set me off, but enough to make me a bit uncomfortable. I think I'd started to get some like period type cramping, and I remember feeling quite uncomfortable. I'd been meeting up with some friends the day after, and I was like, oh, I think I looked white, I was just really uncomfortable, but it didn't actually come of anything. So when I went to go see the consultant, I had read that it was likely they were probably going to induce me, even though my blood pressure was fine and everything, because I'd been on the tablets, they might have induced me a bit early. So he said, I explained I was a bit uncomfortable, but I says I understood it's better for the baby to stay in there as long as possible. So he said, well, we'll do a sort of compromise, and that he would induce me the Tuesday, which would be 4 or 5 days before I was my due date. My due date was the Saturday, and I went into the hospital on the Tuesday night, so that was fine. And I think I was happier because if I knew I was going to go and get induced, I'd be able to get the antibiotics and I'd be fine. I did have a last minute panic the day before I was due to go in, because I really didn't want a C-section. Obviously you can't plan these things, but I just was terrified of getting a C-section. And I was like, I had read a lot, or had seen a lot, that induced labours end up getting C-sections, so it was really playing on my mind, but I went ahead with it. So I went in on the Tuesday night about 8 o'clock. I told them I didn't want, the hospital I went to didn't give epidurals, so I definitely couldn't get into them, which was fine because I didn't want one. I just didn't like the idea of getting an injection in my back. I also didn't want morphine, because I've kind of heard that the baby gets a bit drowsy, especially because I wanted to breastfeed. I just didn't want morphine, and I stated to my husband, no matter how sore it gets, do not give me morphine. Even if I'm screaming for it, don't give me morphine. I got taken in at 8 o'clock, and it was really busy. There was a couple of emergencies, so we didn't get seen till about midnight. She checked me again. She couldn't even feel my cervix, it was that far back, so she says what we'll do is we'll put in the gel and we'll see how it goes. within the sort of 6-hour time frame. So I got the gel in, kind of had a bit of period cramping. I'd asked for some paracetamol during the night. She came to check me about 5 o'clock. She put me back on the monitor, checked the baby, checked blood pressure, you know, things like that. And it was all fine. And then she went to check me and she says, I can feel your cervix now. You're still obviously 1 centimetre dilated as I was the week before. But she says it's a very good chance if we'll give you a bit more of a higher dose of the gel, that would kick things off, and hopefully within the sort of 6-hour time frame they'd be able to break my waters. So it's like, okay, that's good. I went in with the sort of opinion that I really wasn't going to have the baby until sort of late Wednesday, going into sort of Thursday morning. And I think she was pretty, the midwife that was seeing me, she was pretty convinced that I would have the baby that day. And I was like, surely not, it's not going to be that quickly. She inserted in the gel, the higher dose, and this was now about 8 o'clock, and I would say by 8:30 I was doubled over in a lot of pain. The contractions were coming thick and fast, and my husband had been sleeping in a hotel, and he'd come in and he just couldn't believe how quickly it all sort of kicked off. It really was starting to get quite sore, so I got more paracetamol, and we were in a room just off of the sort of post-labour ward, so there was obviously like these ladies with their babies and me trying not to make an awful lot of noise, but you know, it's sore, you're going to make noise. So I couldn't really sit down, I was so uncomfortable, really uncomfortable, so I was standing up, leaning over the sort of bed or the table, trying to kind of deal with the pain. I decided to sit on the birthing ball, so I kind of was sitting on that to see if that would help kind of take away the pressure a bit. And I just heard this little pop. It wasn't a big pop, just a noise that made me sort of think, oh, what was that? And I stood up to go to the toilet, and I just got this little splash of water. It really wasn't a gush at all, it was more just like a wee little bitty came out, and I thought, okay, that's my water's broken. Prior to that, they'd given me the antibiotics in the morning after they'd given me the second dose. So when my waters broke, it was, I think they'd spoken about giving me another dose, but they were happy enough that I don't know, that they spoke about a second dose, but I never got it. Obviously the first was enough. So they took me over to the labour ward, which I was happy with, because it was like, I was in my own room and I got gas and air, and it was a really nice room, I remember that. Walked down, got to the room and I got the gas and air, and that was a good feeling. And I also had a TENS machine, so I got my husband to put that into my back, which was fine. So obviously let things progress. Gas and air was great, absolutely loved it. Made me feel like I was on a night out and I was a bit tipsy. So it was really good. I kept saying, oh, you know, do you want to check, do you want to check? But I think they were a bit concerned about checking because of the strep B, so they didn't really want to sort of make anything there for infection. But she finally checked after a while, and she says, oh, you're 4 centimetres dilated. And I was like, oh no, there's still so long to go. But she says, oh, I think because when I thought my waters had broken, she says, oh, it must have just been a leak. She says, oh, I think I can break your waters fully. So she checked with the consultant, she said that was fine, came back and she broke them, and then checked again and she says, oh, you're about 6 centimetres, so that seemed to make a big difference. So that was 10 o'clock, I went over to the labour ward. This must have been maybe about 11 by this point, maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock. From my waters breaking, there was a sort of time passed. Not long at all, so they thought that I was maybe kind of nearing pushing stage, and I didn't feel like I wanted to push, didn't really feel the urge or anything, but when I was breathing into the gas and air, I was almost like groaning, and they thought that might have been sort of close to pushing. So she checked me at that point and I was 9 centimetres, and I was thinking, oh great, this is absolutely perfect, we're almost there. And thinking, oh, it won't be long now and then that'll be me fully dilated and I'll be able to push. I think it was about another hour, and it was the longest hour of my life. I thought I was never going to be able to push. So when I was finally 10 centimetres dilated, it was about 12 o'clock I started pushing. She says to me, oh, you know, just sort of push when you feel the urge to. I never ever got the urge to push, I think it just happened. It was like, she says, oh, you can push now, and I was like, that's fine, I'll push. That was at 12 o'clock, I started pushing. I kept asking her, you know, how are we getting on, how are we getting on? Oh, you're doing fine, you're doing fine. I kept asking her if she could see the baby. No, you're doing fine. But things weren't just progressing as quickly as I thought. I don't know, I thought you just pushed it out in a half hour. But she says a lot of mums can take, you know, a lot of first time mums don't know what they're doing. So you're just kind of going on instinct. And I don't know maybe if I wasn't pushing correctly or what. But I know as well that when I had a contraction, they were telling me I could probably breathe and push about 3 times. So I would get to that second sort of breath, sort of push, and that was pulling Olivia down a bit further, but I was like losing momentum to get enough energy to push and breathe through that last bit, that like sort of third one. So she was kind of getting back up, so it was almost like she was sort of never getting past that sort of U-bend that they need to. So yeah, I was having a bit of an issue with sort of pushing. It just wasn't taking, it was just taking a lot longer than I sort of originally expected. A couple hours later, it was about 2 o'clock, they said, oh, would you like, this is all, we'll get the consultant in, and that was fine. So the consultant came in, he had a check, and he said, oh, would you like a help? I was just exhausted by this point, but he said, you know, would you like a help? And I went, yeah, I wanted a help. I was really struggling. I didn't know what I was going to get. I didn't know how far down the canal she was, but I was really wanting a help by this point. I was just so tired, and the thought of going on longer. So he went away and got changed, and they came back, and it was actually the ventouse machine they were going to use, because she was obviously that bit further. I didn't know whether it was going to be forceps or what, so it was the ventouse. So they put the suction cap on her head, but actually it wasn't working. When they were sort of doing what they needed to do, the machine was broken. It was like there was a hole in the tube, so the air was getting out rather than doing what it needed to do to sort of help her pull her out. So obviously in the meantime, I'm still pushing, doing my best, I'm still getting contractions, still pushing. So I just vaguely remember this debate going on about what they were going to do. And they got what my husband says was like a bicycle pump. So it must have been like a sort of manual ventouse machine. There is a name for it, which I looked up later, but I can't remember what it is. So they got that, and he says, my husband says that they put it on and the cap kept falling off as I was pushing. So, and then her head came out. So I did actually deliver on my own, but they've obviously classed it as a ventouse delivery because that was used on the day, but I think I did it all myself anyway. So yeah, so her head came out, and I was sort of reading or hearing a bit about that being quite uncomfortable, but I honestly don't remember it. I was so gassed out, I was so tired, exhausted. I was kind of relieved that she was almost here, and obviously next contraction came and she was out. And the next thing I remember is just the consultant lifting up the baby, lifting up Olivia, sort of like that, and it was like, oh, such a sort of relief. She's here, she's fine, oh my god, that just came out of me. You know, just about 50 emotions rolling in at one, just so happy. So she was put on me right away, and I remember asking them, specifically saying, is she a girl? Just, you never know, obviously these things aren't always right, but I just remember asking, is she a girl? And they said, oh, we don't know, or we never checked. So I actually checked myself, but obviously she was a girl. So they gave me the injection for to remove the placenta, and they'd actually cut me to use the ventouse machine, even though I didn't need it. They had cut me, so I did need stitches as well. I remember the consultant saying, oh, you know, a couple of minutes before it comes, and he just sort of, I can't remember where he was resting. I think he was resting them on the stirrups because my feet weren't there anymore, and then just all of a sudden there was just this slither, and this thing came out, and they had a big plastic bag to catch everything. I didn't see it. Craig says it wasn't very pleasant. He says that was probably the worst part of it. They stitched me up, checked everything was okay. I had actually lost quite a lot of blood. I felt fine, I just obviously lost a lot of blood. So they put in a catheter, they checked over Olivia, they gave her vitamin K injection. They felt that she was a bit cold. Although the whole way through the birth they'd been checking her, the whole way through the birth she was absolutely fine. Her temperature didn't dip, her heart rate didn't dip or anything. But when she was born, her temperature dipped quite a bit. So they left her sort of warming for a bit to see if they can get her temperature up. And they gave her back to me for skin to skin. And normally the plan had been to sort of stay in that room for a couple of hours, get a shower, get sort of acquainted with her established breastfeeding. But my parents and Craig's mum had been sitting waiting in the hospital, and this was about, she was born at 36 minutes to 3, so 2:36, and the visiting hours were between 2 and 4. So I was like, they'd come up, like obviously my parents are about 2 hours away from where the hospital was, so I was a bit like, well, I don't, you know, I want to see my mum and dad, I want to see Craig's mum, I want them to see the baby. Let's just get organised and we'll go through to the post-labour ward and I can get a shower at night. So I was wheeled off in a wheelchair to the post-labour ward with Olivia in me, which was like sort of, again, skin to skin. Got to the labour ward, got some tea and toast, breastfeeding, which was established really well, no issues there, she latched on, and I got, obviously my mum and dad and Craig's mum came in to see us, and there was a lot of tears. They'd advised us that not to pick her up because of the strep B. They like to give you about 24 hours just to make sure everything's fine, which there was no issues with going on. Her temperature did dip again, but they says rather than, the first thing said they wanted to do was put her on me, so skin to skin. They said that usually helps sometimes before they sort of, if it didn't, then they were going to take her away into the sort of like warm room to get her temperature up. But I would say about half an hour of skin to skin, and she was absolutely fine. They kept checking her temperature and they were checking my blood pressure and everything like that, but you know, it was absolutely fine. They gave me the drip afterwards, Essedine, to keep contractions going, and that was blooming sore. I remember having visitors like the day after and getting the contractions and just being in so much pain. It was like, it was worse, it was almost as bad as labour. Oh, it was so uncomfortable. That was it. It was a crazy experience. It was very quick. I really didn't expect it to be so quick. So yeah, so that's our story. Just thought I'd let you share it with us. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up and any comments below if you've got any questions, and we'll see you again soon. Bye!